the whispers of Earth. The holographic projections shimmered, a kaleidoscope of swirling nebulae and pinprick galaxies, all rendered in meticulous detail across the council chamber. Yet, it was a single, insignificant blue marble that held their collective attention. Earth. The anomaly persists, droned Unit 734, its metallic voice devoid of inflection. Energy signature fluctuating, origin point localized to the planetary surface. Elder Counselor Forlag steepled his chitinous fingers, his multifaceted eyes narrowed. Fluctuating how? And fluctuating towards what end? Zorp Glargan 7, perched precariously on the edge of his designated observation platform, vibrated with barely contained excitement. Perhaps it's a nascent psychic bloom. Or a manifestation of interdimensional resonance. Maybe silence, Glargan 7. Forlag snapped, his voice cracking like dry space kelp. Your speculative outbursts are not conducive to rational deliberation. He turned his attention back to the shimmering Earth. Explain in quantifiable terms, Unit 734. The energy signature exhibits characteristics inconsistent with known geological or atmospheric phenomena. Unit 734 stated. It pulses with an irregular rhythm, almost deliberate. Comparable to the output of a Class 4 sentient civilization manipulating planetary-scale energy fields, but less focused. A low murmur rippled through the council. Class 4 civilizations were rare, capable of feats that bordered on the incomprehensible. The idea that a species still confined to a single planet, a planet like Earth, could be approaching such a level was unsettling. Preposterous, Forlag declared, his mandibles clicking. Earth is a backwater. A breeding ground for insignificant biological entities. Their technological progress is minimal. Zorp, unable to contain himself, blurted out. But Elder Forlag, that's precisely what makes it so fascinating. If they're generating that kind of energy without advanced technology, it suggests something different. Something we haven't encountered before. He adjusted his multi-lensed goggles, their focus shifting rapidly as he zoomed in on a particularly dense cluster of energy readings emanating from a region on Earth's surface. Look! The signal intensity is highest near areas designated as urban centers by their own primitive mapping systems. Could it be related to their social structures? Forlag sighed, a sound like air leaking from a punctured containment pod. Glargan 7, you are incorrigible. Your enthusiasm is distracting. This council has far more pressing matters than the idle speculations of a junior analyst concerning a primitive world. We are dealing with the potential incursion of the KRY Collective, the destabilization of the Andromeda Rift. But Elder Forlag, with all due respect, Zorp persisted, his voice rising in pitch. Shouldn't we investigate? Even if it's unlikely, the potential implications are enormous. Imagine a species developing planetary-scale energy manipulation through. He paused, searching for the right word. Organic means. Heads turned. Curiosity flickered in eyes, even amongst the most hardened veterans of the council. Forlag, however, remained unmoved. Unnecessary expenditure of resources. He stated flatly. The signal is likely a natural phenomenon we have yet to fully categorize. I propose we assign a low-priority monitoring task to a remote observation post and proceed with more critical matters. Zorp's shoulders slumped. He knew that tone. It was the sound of bureaucratic inertia, the unwavering force that kept the Galactic Council mired in endless procedure. With the Council's permission, Zorp said, his voice now laced with a quiet determination, I volunteer to investigate the anomaly on Earth. A collective gasp swept through the chamber. Forlag's eyes widened in disbelief. You volunteer? He sputtered. Glargan 7, you are a junior analyst. You lack the necessary experience, the proper security clearance. I have completed all required simulations and theoretical analyses. Zorp countered, his voice surprisingly firm. And I possess a deep understanding of xenobiological systems. Besides, he added, a flicker of his earlier enthusiasm returning, it would be a tremendous learning opportunity. Forlag stared at Zorp, his expression a mixture of exasperation and grudging respect. He knew that look. It was the look of someone who wouldn't be deterred, who would continue to pester and probe until he got his way. Better to grant the request, perhaps, than to endure weeks of incessant lobbying. Very well, Glargan 7. Forlag conceded, his voice heavy with resignation. Your request is conditionally approved. But understand this, you will operate under strict observation. Any deviation from protocol, any sign of arrival and observations. The shimmer faded, leaving Zorp's scout ship adrift in the inky black, a tiny metal seed against the vast canvas of the cosmos. Zorp, strapped into the acceleration couch, bounced in his restraints, antennae twitching with barely contained excitement. This was it. Earth. Approaching planetary atmosphere. The ship's calm, synthesized voice announced. Zorp ignored it, already glued to the viewport. A swirl of azure and emerald grew larger, dominating the view screen. It was even more vibrant than the simulations. He adjusted his optical filters, compensating for the glare. Initiating atmospheric entry sequence. The ship droned. A wave of nausea washed over Zorp as the ship bucked and shuddered, friction screaming against its hull. He gripped the armrests, knuckles whitening. He reminded himself that this discomfort was temporary, a small price to pay for the data he was about to collect. The turbulence subsided, replaced by a smoother, gliding sensation. The world below swam into focus. Continents sprawled beneath him, a patchwork of greens, browns, and icy whites. Then he saw them, the cities. They were enormous, sprawling lesions on the planet's surface. Veins of light pulsed along roadways, connecting the clusters of towering structures. Zorp's breath hitched. He had studied the schematics, of course, pored over the projections, but nothing prepared him for the sheer scale of human construction. Activating sensor array, Zorp commanded, his voice tight with nervous energy. Begin data collection on infrastructure density and material composition. Prioritize high-density population centers. The ship hummed in response, bathing the cities below in a rainbow of scanning lasers, invisible to the naked eye. Zorp watched as the data streamed across his console, a dizzying torrent of numbers and graphs. He filtered out the background noise, focusing on the key metrics. The sheer volume of concrete was staggering. The energy consumption, astronomical. He zoomed in on a particularly large conurbation, a sprawling web of skyscrapers that clawed at the sky. Tiny vehicles zipped along roadways that snaked through the urban canyons. He saw parks, minuscule green rectangles sandwiched between the concrete behemoths. Did they even notice the scale of what they had built? Analyze structural integrity of largest building cluster, he ordered. The ship obeyed, its sensors probing deep into the core of the structures. The results came back almost instantly. Analysis complete. Structural integrity, nominal. Recommend further investigation. Observed anomalies in material composition and stress distribution. Zorp frowned. Anomalies? What kind of anomalies? He toggled the display, bringing up a three-dimensional model of the structure. He rotated the image, examining it from every angle. Then he saw it, a subtle shift in the building's center of gravity, a barely perceptible imbalance. It was as if the entire structure was straining. Increase sensor sensitivity, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Focus on the primary support columns. The data flooded back, revealing the source of the problem. Microfractures. Invisible to the naked eye, but undeniably present. The humans were building on a scale that exceeded the limitations of their materials. They were pushing the planet to its breaking point. And they didn't even seem to notice. A chill snaked down Zorp's spine. He wasn't just documenting evolution, he was witnessing something far more dangerous. Echoes of energy. Zorp burrowed further into the alcove's plush confines, the console's ethereal glow painting his face with shifting emerald and sapphire light. The soft thrum of the analysis engine, normally a bomb, now felt like a frantic pulse echoing his own unease. He tapped a claw against the cool interface, magnifying the energy emissions spilling from Earth. Sector Gamma 9 Alpha, more commonly called the North American continent, throbbed with a jumbled chorus of electromagnetic radiation. A predictable cacophony of radio waves, broadcast signals, and the droning hum of power grids, utterly typical for a civilization not yet among the stars. Yet, Zorp marked a constellation of anomalies clustered within the sprawling urban labyrinths. Unlike the broad wash of power plant emissions, these were tight, focused bursts, precise as a surgeon's blade. Fleeting glimmers of something far beyond the Council's assessment of human capability. He isolated a particularly arresting spike originating from Manhattan. The signature pulsed with an unfamiliar quality, an almost crystalline purity, its frequency twisting in intricate arrangements. Filtering the ambient noise, he fed the core signature into the Xenotech database. The response, negative. Impossible, he breathed, his crest trembling slightly. The database held a compendium of every known technology across the explored galaxies. An unknown entry suggested either unparalleled ingenuity or access to unimaginable resources, a drastic miscalculation by the Council. He reran the analysis, meticulously checking each parameter. Still negative. He compared it against the faded echoes of extinct civilizations, hoping for a whisper of forgotten science. Silence. His gaze fell upon the schematic of a human dwelling, a rudimentary blueprint against the intricate scaffolding of his own species' architecture. Could this seemingly fledgling species truly generate such complex energy patterns? A ripple of anticipation shot down his spine. He highlighted another anomaly, this one rising from Silicon Valley. The energy here whispered a different story, a more subtle cadence, almost subliminal. Spectral analysis unveiled a complicated modulation pattern woven beneath the primary frequency, like a coded message hidden within the current itself. Zorp leaned back, his bioluminescent eyes widening with fascination. What secrets were these humans guarding? Were they even cognizant of the potential simmering within their grasp? Or was something else at play entirely? The Council had offered a portrait of a species teetering on the precipice, barely anchored to its own world. But these energy signatures sang a different song, one of latent power, of untapped potential yearning to break free. A certainty bloomed within him. The Council had committed a grave error. The Council's dismissal. Zorp Glargan 7 adjusted the holographic projector, the shimmering image of Earth spinning lazily before the assembled Galactic Council. He swallowed, the recycled air of the chamber suddenly thick and difficult. Esteemed councilors, he began, his voice a shade too high-pitched. I present my preliminary analysis of planet designation 47 Gamma Cli 9, commonly referred to as Earth. A wave of rustling emanated from the semicircular dais where the Council sat, a symphony of clicking mandibles and scraping carapaces. Elder Councillor Forlag, his chitinous shell gleaming dully under the cold Council lights, raised a single, multi-jointed limb. Analyst Glargan 7. We are aware of the designation. Summarize. The Algerian delegation is eager to review the resource stratification reports. Zorp's confidence faltered. Of course, Counselor. However, my analysis indicates unusual biological activity. He tapped a control, and the image zoomed in on a swirling mass of atmospheric anomalies. These localized perturbations in Earth's atmospheric composition do not correlate with known geological activity. They appear intentional. A low hum of skepticism rippled through the Council. Councillor Forlag's segmented eyes narrowed. Intentional? Analyst, are you suggesting intelligent intervention? The data is inconclusive, Councillor. But the scale and complexity of these atmospheric manipulations are unprecedented. Furthermore, Zorp continued, eager to regain his momentum. The dominant species, designated humans, exhibit a remarkable capacity for adaptation. Their technology, while primitive by our standards, is evolving at an exponential rate. They are not simply surviving on Earth, they are reshaping it. Forlag shifted on his dais, a sound like grinding rocks. Reshaping a planet to sustain their limited biological needs is hardly unprecedented, Glargan 7. The Zithians terraformed Xylos Prime for millennia before we annexed it. What is the quantifiable resource value of this Earth, and how easily can it be extracted? Another counselor, a bulbous being whose gelatinous body pulsed with bioluminescent light, spoke in a sibilant whisper. The geological surveys indicate rich deposits of rare earth minerals. Easily accessible, near-surface veins. The potential for energon refinement is substantial. Zorp felt a knot of frustration tighten in his thorax. But the atmospheric anomalies, the rapid technological advancement, shouldn't we consider the potential threat? Forlag emitted a dry, rasping sound that Zorp knew was laughter. Threat? Analyst, you are letting your youthful imagination run rampant. A species barely capable of interstellar communication poses no credible threat to the galactic consortium. Their technology is quaint. We will dispatch a mining fleet, extract the resources, and if necessary, pacify the natives. Dismissed. The holographic projection flickered and died, leaving Zorp standing alone in the sudden silence of the chamber. The council members, their attention already drifting towards the promised resource reports, paid him no further heed as they dispersed. Zorp Glargan 7 remained, the echo of Forlag's dismissal ringing in his auditory receptors, a chilling premonition settling deep within his core. He knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that they were making a terrible mistake. Shifting tides. The atmospheric pressure readings, a hieroglyphic torment etched across Zorp's brow, held a disturbing anomaly. The pandemonium he'd chronicled for countless cycles seemed diminished, tamed. Those once ferocious spikes of barometric flux, the erratic thermal shifts, while still present, felt muted, almost hesitant around the human hives. Simulations spun, sensor calibrations scrutinized, yet the data stubbornly insisted. Earth's weather, that tempestuous maelstrom presented to the Council, was subtly, almost invisibly, finding equilibrium around its human infestations. He pivoted in his bioluminescent seat, the station's soft hum a persistent drone against the frantic thrum in his tympanic membranes. Weather quirks, in isolation, could be chalked up to improbable chance. But there was something else. He summoned the magnetic field analysis. For cycles, a persistent, subtle interference had plagued his observations, a background fuzz that muddied his readings, dismissed as mere geomagnetic noise. Now, the static possessed a new character, focus. Isolating the emanations, he traced their source back to the crude latticework of human technology. Power grids humming with wasted energy, chattering communication arrays, even their lumbering ground transports. A tremor pulsed through his sensory tendrils. The magnetic field wasn't just disrupting their tech, it was bolstering it. The field's strength, almost imperceptibly, amplified near-human energy pathways, easing the flow, mitigating waste. It was akin to the planet unconsciously optimizing their clunky machinery. Impossible, he rasped, the sound brittle in the recycled air. Planets didn't self-correct. They crumbled, they shifted, they bowed to the cold laws of physics. They didn't foster. Overlaying the weather patterns with the magnetic resonance map, a tapestry of intersecting lines and vibrant gradients bloomed across his viewport. The areas of greatest magnetic augmentation aligned almost perfectly with those exhibiting weather calming. This wasn't chaos. It was design, a complex equation just beyond his grasp. Zooming in on a particularly virulent human settlement, a sprawling wound upon the world, he noted the stabilization wasn't homogeneous. It was tiered. A zone of placid winds shielded the city from onrushing storms. A tiny, bespoke high-pressure system diverted rainfall to the surrounding farmland. It was deliberate. Zorp shuddered, a deep, cellular unease. He relived the Council's complacent dismissal, their patronizing smiles, their reassurances of human insignificance. He pictured his own people, cocooned within their biodomes, smug in their technological dominion. A glacial dread seeped into his core. They weren't facing a species adapting to a world. They were facing a world adapting to a species. And that, a conviction that resonated bone deep, represented a threat of unimaginable magnitude. Earth's response. The data swam before Zorp's multifaceted eyes, a chaotic ballet of atmospheric readings, tectonic shifts, and biological anomalies. For cycles, he had chased the nagging dissonance, the off-key note in the symphony of planetary evolution. Then it struck him, a jarring chord that resonated with chilling clarity. It wasn't evolution. It was adaptation. But not of the lifeforms he was studying. He spent the next few solar rotations in a frenzy, cross-referencing ancient geological surveys with contemporary weather patterns, mapping urban sprawl against seismic activity, charting the spread of human agriculture alongside shifts in ocean currents. Sleep became a luxury, sustenance a forgotten chore. He felt the hum of discovery, a dangerous vibration that threatened to shatter the comfortable complacency of the Galactic Council. His presentation was a masterpiece of controlled chaos. He'd chosen to present in raw data, the flashing graphs and swirling projections designed to overwhelm, to bypass the ingrained skepticism he knew he would face. He practiced his delivery, his vocal cords straining to maintain a calm, objective tone as he laid out the horrifying implications of his findings. The council chamber was as oppressive as ever, the air thick with the self-importance of beings who believed they held the universe in their multifaceted hands. Elder Counselor Forlag, a being whose shell gleamed with the patina of centuries, regarded him with thinly veiled disdain. Zorp began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. For millennia, we have observed the dominant species of planet designated 47 Gamma 9, commonly known as Earth. We have categorized them as developing. I submit to you that this assessment is fundamentally flawed. He activated the primary projection. A shimmering globe of Earth materialized, pulsing with overlaid data streams. The prevailing theory is that humanity is adapting to its environment. I propose the inverse. The planet itself is adapting to humanity. A ripple of murmurs spread through the council. Forlag's mandibles clicked audibly. Preposterous. Planetary adaptation on such a scale, it's statistically improbable. Improbable, yes. Impossible, no, Zorp countered, his internal temperature rising. He pointed to a series of correlated events, increased volcanic activity coinciding with major population centers, shifts in the jet stream rerouting weather patterns away from agricultural zones, the emergence of previously dormant microbial strains capable of breaking down synthetic pollutants. These are not isolated incidents. They are coordinated responses, a planetary immune system reacting to an invasive species. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Humanity is not evolving to survive on Earth. Earth is evolving to contain humanity. Forlag snorted, a puff of vapor escaping his respiratory vents. Sentimentality, Glargan 7. You're letting your fascination cloud your judgment. The resources on 47 Gamma 9 are too valuable to ignore. We will proceed with the scheduled extraction. The council is adjourned. The globe of Earth vanished, replaced by the cold, uncaring geometry of the council chamber. Zorp stood alone, the echo of Forlag's dismissal ringing in his auditory canals, a chilling premonition of a disaster no one seemed willing to acknowledge. The unshaken city. The tremor arrived not as a rumble, but as a teeth-rattling jolt that threatened to dislodge Zorp from his observation platform. Below, the human city, christened New Avalon, by its inhabitants, shimmered. The seismic sensors spiked, registering a magnitude 9.2 earthquake, an event that should have flattened the antiquated structures the humans called skyscrapers. Instead, nothing. Dust billowed from the surrounding plains, obscuring the horizon, but New Avalon remained pristine. A faint, almost imperceptible distortion rippled around its perimeter, like heat rising from asphalt, but blue-tinged. That was it. The force field, the one Zorp had been shouting about for cycles, was active. He frantically adjusted the comms, overriding the council's preset channels. Forlag! It's happening! The earthquake! New Avalon is unaffected! Static crackled back. Then, Forlag's voice, laced with irritation. Zorp, I've told you, look at the monitoring feed, damn it! Zorp barked, a rare outburst that even surprised him. He patched his own feed directly into Forlag's private monitor, bypassing the usual bureaucratic layers. Silence. Then, a sharp intake of breath. By the great nebula! On the main council dais, holographic projections flickered. The image of the unscathed city, juxtaposed against the ravaged landscape surrounding it, hung suspended in the air. Elder Councillor Forlag, his scaled face a mask of stunned disbelief, stared fixedly. Around him, other councillors stirred, murmurs rippling through the chamber. "Explain this, Glargan 7," Forlag finally said, his voice devoid of its usual condescension. "This field. Its energy signature is off the charts. Nothing in our database matches it." Zorp swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "As I've been attempting to convey, Counselor, my analysis suggests it's a localized space-time distortion. A technology far beyond our current understanding. The humans are not passively evolving, they are adapting the very fabric of reality to their needs." He watched as Forlag conferred with the other counselors, their expressions shifting from skepticism to something approaching alarm. The focus on resource extraction, the dismissal of Zorp's warnings, it all seemed to fade in the face of this undeniable evidence. "Glargan 7," Forlag said, his voice now carrying a gravitas Zorp had never heard before. "Prepare a full report. We need to understand the nature of this field, its power source, its limitations. Everything. And Glargan 7. He paused, his gaze intense. "Thank you? Perhaps we were too hasty in our assessment." Zorp simply nodded, relief washing over him. It wasn't vindication he sought, but acknowledgement. The humans were not a primitive, easily exploited species. They were something else entirely. And the Council, finally, was beginning to see it. The guardian of the Redwood. The shuttle groaned in protest as it sliced through the atmosphere, Forlag barely acknowledging the jarring descent. He smoothed his ceremonial robes, their opalescent sheen catching the faint interior light. "Such antique engineering," he grumbled, the comment aimed more at the stale air than his two impassive aides. The landing proved surprisingly gentle, the craft easing into a clearing carved from the heart of a primeval forest. Forlag emerged, his trioptic vision struggling to adapt to the dappled sunlight. Colossal trees, soaring to impossible heights, rendered the shuttle insignificant. A palpable energy thrummed in the air, a subtle vibration that resonated within his very core. "Impressive botany," Forlag conceded, though his inflection dripped with disdain. "A potential asset nonetheless." As if conjured by his pronouncement, a figure materialized from the redwood's shadowed embrace. She was human, yet possessed an aura unlike any Forlag had encountered. Her eyes, the color of fertile soil, held a primeval sagacity, a tranquil comprehension that rattled his composure. Her cascading ebony hair was interwoven with verdant leaves and shimmering fragments of avian plumage. "Welcome, wanderers," she greeted, her voice a soft susurrus carried on the breeze. "I am Kyala." Accustomed to unyielding respect, Forlag straightened his shoulders. "I am Elder Councillor Forlag, representing the Galactic Council. We are here to evaluate this world's suitability for resource exploitation." Kyala's gaze remained unwavering. "Earth extends hospitality. But Earth also possesses agency." Forlag scoffed, dismissing her words. "Sentience is paramount for substantive discourse." We detected no global consciousness. A serene smile touched Kyala's lips, a delicate curve of amusement. "You perceive only what you anticipate. Earth is indeed sentient, Counselor. And she is, tending humanity." Forlag stared, bewildered. Tending? In what manner? A cascade of understanding flooded Forlag's mind, bypassing language, directly transferring comprehension. He witnessed intricate neural pathways interwoven throughout the planet's biosphere, a vast, interconnected network functioning as a single, unified intellect. He felt the surge and retreat of human emotions, filtered and guided by the planet's intrinsic will. He grasped, with chilling clarity, that the planet wasn't merely tolerating humanity, it was actively shaping their evolution, subtly influencing their actions to maintain an intricate equilibrium. The revelation was overwhelming. Forlag recoiled, clutching at his temples. Unfeasible, he choked out. Humanity is contained? Kyala inclined her head, her gaze filled with profound melancholy. Not contained, counselor. Nurtured. Steered. Earth strives only to ensure her perpetuation, and the well-being of all her progeny. She turned, her gaze encompassing the ancient woods. And she will defend them, with every fiber of her being. The symbiosis. The murmurs rippled through the galactic council chamber like a disturbed nebula. Kyala's pronouncement, delivered with the quiet assurance of a mountain range, had shattered their preconceived notions. Earth wasn't a resource to be plundered, but a living entity, and humanity, a component of its intricate system. Zorp Glargan 7 wrung his multi-jointed hands, his iridescent skin shimmering with unease. But the data! The pollution levels, the resource depletion. It all pointed to planetary degradation, a species spiraling towards self-destruction. Elder Counselor Forlag, his face a roadmap of wrinkles etched by millennia of bureaucratic maneuvering, scoffed. Degradation profitable for us, Glargan. We were on track to extract the remaining lithium deposits within the decade. Sentient or not, the planet's core still holds valuable resources. With all due respect, Elder, Zorp countered, his voice barely a whisper. The data now suggests that what we perceived as degradation was, in fact, controlled symbiosis. Earth was regulating its ecosystem, absorbing the excess, adapting to the human presence. He gestured to the holographic projections displaying Earth's vital signs. The magnetic field fluctuations, the atmospheric shifts, the very tectonic activity, it's all orchestrated, a planetary defense mechanism, if you will, designed to maintain equilibrium. Kyala inclined her head slightly. Earth sees humanity as a fever. A disruptive force, yes, but also a catalyst. It nurtures us, guides us, even punishes us, all in an effort to restore balance. The quakes, the storms, they are not random acts of destruction, but carefully calibrated adjustments. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Earth, a sentient being of unimaginable power, was not being ravaged by humanity. It was containing them, shaping them, farming them. Forlag, however, remained unconvinced. So it's a gardener? Tending its weeds? This changes nothing. We simply adjust our approach. Finesse instead of brute force. We extract the resources with greater care. Another counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke. But what if the weeds are sentient too? Are we prepared for the ethical ramifications of exploiting a symbiotic relationship? Of playing God to an entire planetary ecosystem? The debate raged for cycles, fueled by fear, greed, and a nascent sense of unease. Zorp watched, his anxieties twisting within him. He had presented the initial findings, driven by a genuine concern for galactic stability, but now he felt responsible for unleashing a Pandora's box of moral and political dilemmas. Finally, a consensus emerged, born not of compassion, but of pragmatism. The risks outweighed the rewards. Earth, with its unpredictable sentience and its fiercely protected symbiotic relationship, was too volatile, too unpredictable. Forlag, his face etched with barely concealed disappointment, announced the Council's decision. We will withdraw. All resource extraction operations are to cease immediately. Earth is to be quarantined, its sentient status classified. Let humanity and its planetary hosts sort out their peculiar arrangement. We have other, less complicated, worlds to exploit. The council chamber emptied, leaving Zorp alone with the holographic image of Earth, a vibrant blue sphere swirling with untapped potential and unimaginable power. Humanity, left to its fate, locked in an ancient dance with a silent, watchful God. He shivered, a premonition chilling him to his core. They hadn't saved humanity. They had simply abandoned them,